Can it be? Allison said it would. Okay, awesome. You mean after the meeting? Oh, Allison said she was gonna ask them to upload it before the meeting. She didn't. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call the Wednesday, September 21st, 2020 regular school board meeting to order. Roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel.
Kara, I'm gonna ask from now on, like when I say roll call, you can call people so they can say here, but they'll say their names today. Okay. Tamika Vukovic. Carla Pennington Cross.
That one.
Danielle Bailey.
Andrew Franklin.
Okay, we will stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are on a roll. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
That's someone. Well, it's motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, sorry, agenda.
Someone.
Second? Second. I'd second. Oh, you already have it. We're calling the person. Motion by Andy Franklin, seconded by Tamika Vukovic. Any discussion?
Point of order, I think it was Ben who made the motion.
What did you say there?
I
never mind.
clarified.
Motion by Ben Wen, seconded by Tamika Vukovic. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, so I would move to approve the consent agenda, except to exclude the suicide prevention month resolution. Pull it out.
Okay. So we will go into. No, I'm just explaining it for a second. So we'll just be pulling out the suicide
Prevention month,
prevention resolution.
item E.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by our motion by Carla with pulling the suicide prevention resolution, second by Danielle Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will go into the now we will do the passing of the suicide. Go ahead.
Do that first.
Who wrote it?
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so it's National Suicide Prevention Month. Which is an idea with the goal of promoting suicide prevention awareness. So I drafted a resolution. I won't read the whole thing to you, but would just highlight the fact that nearly 45,000 people die by suicide in the US each year. It's the second leading cause of death in Wisconsin youth. And of course, those of us who've been here know that we lost one of our own students to suicide in 2017. And the pandemic has raised a lot of challenges and increased a lot of stress and trauma for a lot of people in our community. And we have the power as a community to make a difference. And I think our district is recognizing this. Yay, our student services team is here today to make a presentation. We've hired a lot of new people, and I know we've made a commitment to trauma-informed education. And so that's all really exciting. So I thought it would be good to have a resolution in place to reflect what we're doing and just reiterate the board's commitment to it. So I wrote this 2-page resolution, and if it's okay, I'll read the kind of the commitment the board would be making if we pass this resolution, that we would resolve to recognize and support the goals of National Suicide Prevention Month in promoting suicide prevention awareness. And we would be making a commitment to 1, acknowledge the role public schools can and must play in preventing suicide by supporting the mental health of students and staff in our school communities. 2, support and enable the creation of positive, safe, and affirming school environments for all students and staff through inclusive and equitable language, practices, and policies. 3, ensure that our district pursues appropriate and sufficient social and emotional learning programs and evidence-based approaches to promote healthy student development. including trauma-informed practices and training for staff to recognize signs of mental health risks and suicidal ideation. Or support the mental health of all school personnel, recognizing this is foundational to maintaining a healthy, compassionate, positive school environment. 5, ensure that families, students, and district staff are made aware of district resources to support mental health and suicide prevention. And 6, work with local community stakeholders, including caregivers, students, and district staff, to raise awareness of mental health challenges and suicide prevention, build resilience, and find hope. So that's the resolution. I don't know if anyone
Make a
wants to say
motion
anything.
to pass the resolution. Make a motion, then we can have the conversation. We have a motion. I'll move to pass the resolution. Have a second.
I'll second.
Pass our motion by Danielle Bailey, seconded by Andy Franklin. Gonna go into discussion with the audience. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say on this resolution? Please state your name, your address.
A street at Kroger, 7007 North River Lane, Glendale. I wanted to thank Carla for proposing the resolution. As she outlined, we're really in a mental health crisis in our community and larger society. And schools across the country are taking some smaller steps, some are taking larger steps. I think with our new student services director, who I look forward to meeting tonight, and the team, I think we're in a good position to really act on these action steps that are outlined in the resolution. So I would encourage the board members to please pass the resolution.
Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna go to the board. Danielle?
I just want to thank Carla for authoring the resolution and say that authoring resolutions, as we know, is sort of, it's one part of it, but the work, the accountability to the things we commit to in this resolution are really the most important part. So I would love to see for this resolution and other resolutions that we've passed, that we do follow up. We do sort of schedule timelines to check in and then, you know, with appropriate people and say, how are we working towards these goals? How are we becoming more inclusive for LGBTQ folks, Black folks, and what are we doing for mental health? So it's also a very dear topic to me. I lost my best friend to suicide 4 years ago. So I think, yeah, I appreciate that we are talking about this and that that's all.
Danielle, thank you. Carla, anyone else? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor of passing the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, guys. 3, department updates. We have a special education and student services presentation. You guys are all, hold on 1 second. Do you wanna intro this?
Yeah, I would love to introduce our new director of special education services and student support staff. So if you, Kelly, would you like to stand up and maybe introduce the team?
Sure.
For everyone?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly White-Pulaski. I'm your new Director of Special Education and Student Services. I'm thrilled to be here. I am here with our Student Services team. I know that the board was hoping for a presentation from Student Services. And I asked for volunteers and almost our entire Student Services team without hesitation volunteered to be here in front of you tonight. So we'd like to just introduce ourselves to you. We have a presentation to give and we'll probably stand up kind of towards the side of the room. The layout's not perfect for our large group, but everybody has something to share. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like trying to get out of the way and then I like really went in your way.
Hi, everybody. Like I said, we are your student services team. We took this picture today. We are missing 2 people from our team, but we'll introduce you to them when the time comes. We do recognize that this board and this community recognize the need for a student services team in your community. And we don't take that lightly. We are working really hard on developing a plan and a focus and to have some specific commitments and goals for our student services team, and we would like to share some of that work with you right now. We're gonna start with introduction. So you've met me first. Oh, it's gonna, oh, got it. Thank you. So we're gonna start with. You're good. You're good, Elijah. We're gonna start with Denise. Go ahead, Denise.
Hi, I'm Denise Davis. I'm their district social worker. I serve both Glen Hills and Parkway Elementary. This is my third year in the district. I have started 2022. No, 2020. Let's see. And I work with students, families, staff. With support mental health, social emotional well-being, connectedness.
Thank you. We'll have maybe our counselors go next.
Steve Tilly, I am the elementary school counselor at Parkway. I've been working in the Glendale-River Hill School District since 2010, full-time since 2015. So I'm trying to be here to see a lot of good faces. That's awesome. And at Parkway, I'm a school counselor and I teach social emotional learning classes. I do 4 of those a day. I also work with all groups and individually. And I work with all students. That's my favorite part of being a counselor, is getting a chance to know all students. It doesn't matter who they are, all amazing potential, and I love working with all students. So, at Parkway, to do whatever is kind of asked me last year. I did a lot of teaching. This year I'm getting back more kind of. Yeah, here.
Thank you.
I think I'm also going to talk about Kevin right away. So Kevin Rogers is our SPL coach. I work closely with Kevin. He is the person I did a little bit of this last year. Who works in the self-involved structure at our school. He supports students through organized structured play, teaching them what our pride goals are and how to be responsible, honest when they're playing, how to interact appropriately. He really piggybacks on a lot of the lessons that I'm teaching in helping the students be successful on the playground, out of success. He also supports students that might be dysregulated. And again, he works really closely with me in supporting students.
Thank you. Marion?
I'm Marion Gillen. I'm school counselor here for 4th and 6th grade. And then Carrie couldn't be here. She's the counselor for upstairs, 6th, 7th, and 8th. What we do is we support staff with the students. We help students and we teach them techniques to regulate themselves. We help with behavior issues. We support them through academics. We are also support for teachers. We are now coordinating 504s as well. So we also are there for families and support them through that journey. Carrie helps students through the transition to high school. I help students through their transition to middle school. Well, social emotional skills. Vengeance. And everything in between.
Thank you, Marion. Elijah, you want to go next?
Oh, okay. So my name is Elijah. Some of you guys may know me as Mr. Kirks. This year I'm the Student Support Services mentor. And what that entails, I have to tell you guys. So last year I was here as a substitute teacher. This year it's my new position, so I'm going on my 2nd year here. And what that looks like for me is supporting Denise, supporting Carrie, supporting Marion, and supporting Haley. It's like the whole last name, first name. Their attempts to really anchor down on getting children's mental health in the right state and making sure that they have an easy transition and great student success. And Glendale. I'm at Glendale, I'm not at, here at Glendale.
Thank you, Elijah. And then Peggy and Haley.
So my name is Haley Weaver. I'm new to the district. I'm the school psychologist here at Glendale Middle School. Like I said, it's my first year in the district. I'm honored to be here and I understand I have very large shoes to fill over at Glendale. So school psychologists, in addition to some of the things that the counselors have already spoken about, and Elijah and Denise have talked about, we're also kind of like the gatekeepers of the special education and 504 process and managing and maintaining those systems at the school level. Because we now have 2 school psychologists, one in each building, we're able to really work on some like universal and tier 1 pieces of how schools can run and function to be able to support all students to be as successful as possible at school. If anyone is interested, I printed a QR code that'll take you to the 50 resources on what school like really building.
She's the tech person. This is my 28th year in the district, 27 years between both buildings. And this year I'm very excited to just be at Parkway the whole time, elementary school. So everything that Haley said, we really wear a lot of hats. We support mental health, social, emotional, behavior, academic, consultation with parents, teachers, students individually. It really kind of, we all kind of work together for better outcomes for students. And Haley and I do our special education evaluations, but in school sites, we can about them. So we're trying this year to focus more directly on it.
I have a question. How many of your positions are newer within this year or last year? Like, not you being here, but the actual positions.
Yeah.
So it's 3, 4?
Four.
Was the SEL
Okay.
coach.
Five.
Okay, so those are 5 new positions that were created between last year and this year. Okay, last 8 years.
Okay, I think we got everybody.
Well, before I get into our district mission, I guess with that, observation, I'd like to share that I am super appreciative for someone that's been here a while. And remembering when I was just a half-time counselor and we had a full-time counselor at middle school, and then 1 psychologist, we have come a long way supporting students and the mental health and just an all-around well-being. So I'm super appreciative of that and excited about the fact that I've been here long enough to kind of see that like evolution. So with that in mind, our district mission is as a part of the greater Glendale-River Hills community, school district will lead in creating a supportive learning environment, which you guys certainly have done, to inspire all students to strive for excellence in pursuing a strong academic foundation to succeed in and contribute to the global community. So we really see a big part of what we do on the student services level is like contributing to this mission. Obviously, the community, the whole community needs to be a part of like helping students get stuff when it actually starts in school with us. So we really believe in this mission.
Right, these are two district goals. Our administrative team took a lot of time and care this last month to come up with. You see them up there. We wanted to point this out because our roles as student support staff, I believe directly impact both. I would say like that bottom up, the school-wide systems and processes, building like safe culture and environment, super important. We need that though to really improve academics. Without like calm brains and calm culture and connectedness, I believe that it is really hard to learn new information, retain information. So we just wanted to point out that our work is integral in like pushing our district goals forward.
I want to tell you now about a little bit of work that we did as a student services team. We do like to make database decisions and we spent some time because there are a number of people on this team, including myself, just looking at some of the data that was available to us. 2 of the things that we kind of explored a little more deeply was number 1, our developmental assets profile. Which was a profile that was given to our students at Glen Hills. But it did show us that there was a need for mental health and a need to kind of target those social and emotional skills of our students. And the other thing that we explored and looked at together was the student behavior data from the 21-22 school year as well. So those were some of the data points we used. Obviously, there's qualitative data also, but these were some of the points we looked at as we were kind of developing our plan for the year. And then we also wanted to do, there's a lag. So I'll talk about this slide, it'll come.
Can I ask you a question about the DAP?
Please.
We reviewed it, I don't know, months ago now, maybe
A while
last
ago.
summer. And there was some conversation about it because when you looked at the numbers of the students, the amount of students that actually took it when they had access to taking it, because it was done over some time in the classrooms, I believe. It was a pretty low turnout. It was not ideal. Does this ring a bell?
I remember
Carla?
that. It was pretty low response.
Did anything about that stand out to you or influence how you reviewed those?
We
results?
didn't, and we didn't look at the number of students that completed that. But if this is something that's going to be administered annually, that's something you can obviously take a look at or look at a little more deeply.
And I do believe there was supposed to be follow-up between the SST teams and staffs in the neighboring schools to sort of suss out what goals were and things like that. And I'm not sure that we got a follow-up as a board on that. So I would be curious how your team will either use this going forward or.
Right, and how
Work
our,
with
how our
other
neighboring
districts.
districts are kind of using this data and develop a plan.
And then I have a question. Student behavior data.
I want to try to make
You
sure that some of our questions may be answered throughout her presentation. So what I would like for us to do is get her through her presentation and then just write your questions down and then she can go back and answer, because most of the time questions are answered through a presentation all the way through.
So no more questions?
No, ask all the questions.
It's okay.
Just go ahead.
We
and ask
can
all the
just
questions.
wait.
Okay. Another thing we did, was a self-assessment, and it was really a self-assessment, of our student services team. You will see, I did pull this off of API's website. It was a little tricky for us to do the self-assessment, because so many of us were new, but we really, wanted to hold ourselves accountable, and kind of look at some of the areas of weakness that we identified through the self-assessment, and they're really hard to see here. But if you click on the link here, it'll show you what those questions are. So some of the weaknesses I could identify were having systems in place, okay, to address student needs. Another weakness was clear lines of authority, which I think with my role, that's been really helpful already. And then using evidence-based interventions for students that need more than what's being provided at the universal level. So this was a tool we used as a team to really kind of start the conversation about our work and what areas we need to focus on together. There's my
Three commitments that we have in this year are that we will be doing a monthly newsletter from your student services team. That'll include things like this month will be information about suicide prevention and things that you can do in the community or at home, or things that are happening at school that relate to that, or other things, messages from your student services team. Things like second step, one of the tier 1 SEL instructional things that are happening. The monthly team will be in there and things like that. We are committing to a better inventory of interventions as well as accessibility for figuring out how to group kids in those interventions. The DAP being one of those pieces that can help us figure out who might need intervention and what groups of students might work on a similar goal of intervention.
as well as being a part of the collaborative support team process, which there is more about on the next slide. That just being when we're looking at the different tiers of intervention that students might need, how we're analyzing data to make sure that we are working students overly in targeting areas. That we have into. Okay, this next slide is going to be me, and this is just an overview because I think you've heard us say the word tiers or universal. And I love using a visual like this because I think it helps our community understand. So, at the universal level, across our school district, every child is receiving instruction in social emotional learning. And we're using a curriculum called Second Step to deliver that universal curriculum. So that is something every child is getting, and that is an evidence-based practice or an evidence-based tool. But there are some kids who are showing us that they need more than that, okay? So about 75 to 90% of students respond really well to universal instruction, but some kids need more. So roughly between 10 and 25% of students need an intervention, okay? And then there are some students that need something even more targeted and even deeper than that tier 2, and they might need a tier 3 intervention, okay? This team of people is working at every level on this triangle, okay? We're supporting the universal level, but we are also providing interventions at the tier 2 and at the tier 3 level, okay? So we've been working really hard on selecting some of the targeted interventions. And I'm just going to describe to you the process we've been using. We're kind of in the middle of that process right now. We started with a brain dump. We did this digitally through a Padlet, and we selected different interventions that we are either using, we have, or even interventions that we need at those different tiers. We then kind of took those interventions and we ranked them. We used a digital system to rank, so everybody essentially got to vote on what interventions they felt would be the strongest. So these are degree professionals, and they are able to look at interventions and look at the evidence behind those interventions, select interventions that they feel are going to be effective to meet the needs of the students we're serving. Okay, so that was really our process so far. We're really kind of still in the middle of this. But we are getting ready to start with our intervention groups, and they're hungry so for the intervention. So that has been our process. And then we work together to write 3 goals. So we're going to share those goals with you.
Yes, based on our self-assessment that we did as a student services team and looking at the goals for the district, we came up with 3 goals for ourselves this year. So one is the point Kelly was talking about with intervention. Build capacity for addressing student needs through connection and collaboration with staff and also the community at large. Develop and support consistent, systematic processes to proactively screen, identify, and support students that are in need in the district. And then develop a toolkit that we can have of universal and targeted interventions to address the varying social and emotional needs of our students.
And that is our presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Do we have any questions?
You want to start with visitor participation?
One question for here. But you had questions.
I'm okay, but. I could follow the visitor participation.
We didn't do the spring last year. After that, but we will make a way, we will be able to debate.
Oh,
It was mainly reviewing the data and talking about future plans.
okay. Yeah, I just remember I mentioned. Oh, cool. You want those guys questions?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
I think this is a little bit different.
You want me to go? I have general questions that were things that were not in the presentation. Okay, so maybe similar. Mr. Tilley, you talked about some of the SEL, some of the programming you guys do. So I was curious if what curriculum or programming you and is it Kevin?
Yep.
Use at Parkway. Is it Second Step or is it something different or is it?
Second Step.
Okay.
So I started in 2015, Dr. Hilton purchased the hard copy version of Second Step.
Okay,
And then last year, Ms. Westfall and I worked together and she purchased like the digital, which is kind of like updated.
okay.
So that's, I would say, the core. And then right now I'm teaching zones regulation. I'm sure probably won't talk about that, but I mean,
I've seen it, yes.
I'm trying to get the behavior thing going like right away with that, and that is something the kids can use all year, and the teachers use that universal language. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on now, but then that will become the second step.
Do you have knowledge of the second step sort of, you said, like who was privy to the training in 2015? Was it just our SST team or counselors? Like, has it been disseminated to teachers or other staff, or sort of where we're at? If anybody can speak to that,
Sure.
the current.
At Glen Hills right now, our second step curriculum is being delivered by the classroom teachers. And for Glen Hills, that was a very purposeful shift that was once done by the school counselor. And the decision or rationale behind that shift was that our students benefit from hearing the language embedded in second step from their classroom teachers throughout the school day. That work felt very siloed here last year. And in order for students to fully benefit, that work has kind of been it's now happening within the general education classroom.
So that's new to this year.
That's new to this year.
So how are you guys, how are you involved with training and getting teachers on board with the?
Yep, so every teacher has access to the virtual or the digital second step resources, and in those resources are introduction videos and training videos linked right in there. We have met as a student services team. Our counselors have met with the classroom teachers to describe second step. They've been provided with a pacing guide. The lessons are really beautifully laid out for our classroom teachers.
Go ahead. So do they have fixed times in their days that they're allocated to ensure that the training is happening in the classroom?
Yeah, so when we pushed out the schedules this year, the time for that work was to be happening right away in the morning. And when we started meeting as a team, some of the feedback we were getting from our teachers is that they didn't think that all of the students were benefiting from it being right away in the morning, because we were having like tardy students that were tardy, and then we had some busing issues, and they were saying, we just don't feel that our students are getting the full effect with having that scheduled right away in the morning. So the classrooms have been given like the autonomy to choose when those second step lessons are going to be delivered. And most grade levels are determining that as a team, just to make sure it's happening universally and all of the students are receiving that.
And then are you guys having the opportunity to go in and observe, kind of provide that coaching feedback? So, excellent.
I'm also meeting with teachers, probably this week. I think I have a couple scheduled already to kind of go through it and make sure there's no questions, that they've gone through their lessons, and if they need support on any lessons, they know that they can come to me and I can either go to the classroom or we can meet before on prep for whatever they're teaching.
There are 2 grade level teams at Glen Hills per month where the student services team are joining the grade level teams, and we are talking. Our first question is always, how is the universal going for second step delivery? What can I do to support you with that? Those are like our benchmark questions, and then showing that they need more than what the universal is providing. So there's lots of check-ins with our classroom teachers.
Okay, I'll just say that I'm just really excited about this. Everything about what I'm seeing is exciting, and I love that you're working as a team. It fills my cup, and just seeing that there's a team, I've been advocating.
These people are amazing.
I'm really trying not to cry.
They're
It's really exciting. And that you're able to work as a team and collaborate together I really appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that process. That's really the main thing I'm gonna take away from today. And I'm grateful to hear that you're pushing into classrooms for the second step and providing that coaching and support. Quick, very little question, the behavior reports you referred to with the DAP survey, the student behavior data, does that mean like people got in trouble, people got reported to the office, people were suspended, that's the data you need?
That's what we saw, Carla, when we had the discipline discussion.
Right, okay. And then I just wanted to point out as well that I love your commitment to a monthly newsletter. I think that's one of the big steps to breaking stigma. So I'm really excited if you can keep that up and keep pushing information out to families and just that slow burn of getting information out there is just so powerful. One thing that's not on here that we've sometimes talked about in the past is providing in-house therapeutic supports, right? Having an in-house counselor who can meet with students. Is that something that's still on the radar that you guys have talked about yet?
Sure. So, aside from our school counselors, I think you might be speaking to, the Aurora.
Third party
The Aurora.
therapists, yeah.
So we have talked about that and I don't have specific details about how that was utilized, but from my understanding, that resource was, highly underutilized last year. And I have had some conversations with Allison about the need and that we still feel that there is a need. But to require families to travel to utilize the resource we felt was presenting a barrier. So we are kind of poking into bringing a resource in-house to be here in-house for our families to have easier access to. I don't have any specifics for you, but just tell you that that is
On the radar.
what's that?
It's on the radar.
It's on the radar. Yeah. And something, and I know that Aurora was involved before, but just not utilized the way we hoped.
So my question or point or suggestion ties into that because I would say, I don't know if we did the best job advertising it, reaching out to families, beyond talking about it at a couple of meetings and we communicated it out a couple of times, but I wouldn't say very clearly what it was or how do you access it. So that's just a note for if we continue to utilize it going forward, which I hope we do.
Thank you.
But it flows into my, I love seeing all of you here. I'd love to see all of your amazing faces on our website. And so I don't know, I hope that's something that you guys are working on because there are several pages where, there's just no information about you guys, family resources, links. A lot of them don't go anywhere. Glen Hills has nothing about counselors. Parkway has a counseling page. There's nothing on it. Family resources has links that don't exist.
Right.
And I think even our student services team page could be more dynamic, talking about you and all of your services and all the things we offer.
That is coming up.
So,
Great.
yeah, basically, 100%, we all agree with your statement. And Haley here, even admitted to while she was in the hiring process, being somewhat let down. When she hit the counselor tab, I'm sorry, she couldn't find anything, right? So I'm sitting there and they're saying this and I'm like, okay, come on, you definitely
Yeah.
throw this on
I
there.
know it's been on the radar, but I think now is.
We're on the same page,
Okay.
basically, what,
Yeah. That was.
The school-based mental health services is fully supported by Lindsay and Allison, moving that work forward. We're just trying to, there's different models, different ways to set it up. It's like, the thing that come to mind is funding and then space. How to set it up in a really sustainable, long-lasting, confidential way. And I want it to be something. Sometimes in schools when you thing comes along and this is something that I think is really important to get well. Yeah, I don't think get it done right, is not right, but it's do well and to really make it as safe as possible. So
Yeah.
that is something that is top of mind that set up. Finding the right people in our building. And that's a huge thing. The right people, seeing our students, and it's a lot of us convincing our students to go and give it a shot, and we really want to do it. Might take us a little bit longer, but we're working on it.
Yeah, just continuing with the idea of the website. I know that when you search for colleges, and I know that Glen Hill is not a university. It gets very frustrating when you have outdated colleges looking at it. It's not exciting. It's like nowadays online, the websites are like our first face, so we gotta make sure that when people are out there trying to get information, and being excited, we harness the excitement and get them. So. Go right there.
I appreciate you guys coming. Would love to see you here more.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
and welcome again.
Oh,
What?
Ben, do you have any?
Oh, no, further.
Want to open it up to the audience, the audience.
Not done yet.
You
lives are really.
Oh, just kidding.
Here, can you stand up, say your name, your address, and then your question. Go ahead.
Zach Hirschman, I live at 2520 Michael, which I think is that way, right? I'm still bad at inside to outside. Thank you. This is really awesome to see. It's awesome to see the expanded team. It's awesome to see all the ideas. I have just a quick comment and then a question. The comment is, you're committing to a monthly newsletter. You're already committing to updating content dynamically, and that can be put on the website. Two birds from one egg.
thank you.
And then the question is, I saw a lot of those pyramids when I was a teacher. And the question I always have is, how do we identify students and really provide that dynamic filtering and students moving up to the second tier as needed before waiting months, right? And then moving back into the first tier when whatever social emotional learning is taking place. If you could just articulate what you're thinking about putting in place there.
Sure. The process looks different between Glen Hills and Parkway. At Glen Hills, like I said before, the student services team is meeting with every grade level team twice a month. And that's when we're having discussions about students who seem as though they're needing more than what's being provided at the universal level. And right then and there, we're making decisions about whether that need rises to an intervention and what that intervention will look like. Okay. And then those students are we're documenting that in those decisions so that the next time we meet, those students are still there and we can talk about how is that intervention going? Does it need to be intensified? Or did we meet the students' need and do we feel like they're ready to drop into what's being provided universally? At Parkway, it looks a little bit different. At Parkway, a lot of those interventions are being provided based on teacher referral. So a teacher might make a recommendation and that triggers that student services team meeting with the grade level team and making some decisions about whether or not an intervention is warranted. Okay. The fear is, and I don't know, maybe I'm reading your minds wrong. Sometimes there's kids that have needs that we don't capture through behavior. Okay. So that's kind of one of the things we've been talking about is how do we make sure we're catching all the kids that need our services. Our team did a really nice job going in classrooms and introducing themselves. We already have students that are self-referring themselves, which is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. But that's our process so far for the two schools. And I'm not going to tell you that the processes are perfect and we might find that we need to tweak those and change those. But those are the processes we're gonna work through this for the school year. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
A street encounter 7007 North River Lane. Thank you. It's wonderful to see all of you tonight and to hear about your plans. I also want to encourage you to pursue the in-house therapy services for students and really other districts, not necessarily North Shore, but throughout the greater Milwaukee area have different models that they're using. So I'm sure you're able to find some opportunity.
I think I will.
One thing I didn't hear you mention is the YRPS, which you may not have that data yet, but it was collected last year, I believe, at Glen Hills.
Okay.
I don't know that that date is available, but that should also, that hadn't been done here, well, because of the pandemic. Hadn't been done for a while, so
Okay,
that'll, I think that would be great to share with the board as well.
okay.
As we see how our school district. goes.
Thank you all for that.
Very much.
Thank you so much.
Because I have mental health issues. I need to bring picture of the notepad, but you understand.
Picture?
Yes. When I concentrate, because I have ADD, I need to do something to fully hear. If I stare at somebody, I'll daydream. So I usually am writing or doing something. So thank you.
It's a COVID.
No, yeah, I have to like kind of twiddle, right, or you'll see me like, I'll pick up my phone, just, you know, but it means that I'm here. Great, that's it. I thank you very much, for your update. So, kind of, green team. Who's doing the green?
I am.
No, I want to ask if I can, move this up a little bit because we have somebody who's, on the Zoom. And I want to see if it's possible to move her up into the agenda. I make a motion to move Ann Schultz up in the agenda. She's in the new business, but I want to move her up in the agenda because she, or Ann Schultz.
Short.
Huh?
Short, it's short.
Is it short?
It's short.
Yes.
Okay, and can I just make a request that, Karen, can you message Hannah? So we have a representative from an organization. I just want to make sure that she's available to stay on longer.
She has a really short.
Yeah, that's fine.
presentation,
Okay.
So that's why I'm trying to move. I thank everyone for, participating and coming. I'm just trying to, be,
So she's available, right?
yes, she's on this one. Are we putting her on this? Okay.
So do we need a
Well, we
motion?
would need to go.
Yes, I
get a
asked for a motion.
So moved to move Ann Schultz up to ahead of item 3.
It would be 3B,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it would be
right now.
3B.
Second then. So, Carla motion, I second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is that everybody? Okay. Everyone, motion carries. So can we get, Ann up? And, Ann, is a wonderful lady who helped us through a lot of, trying times. She was part of the consultant team that helped us hire, Ms. Weiss. But she has guided us through a bunch of processes that we have been doing, which is board education. Just knowing where we stand, how do we do things, how do we evaluate? And right now, we may need some more education, just like you guys need professional development. And, the teachers do. We also need professional development because none of us are, except for Ben, none of us are educators. I mean, we don't work in the school. Sometimes it's good to have somebody, and she's been a district superintendent for 20 plus years or 30 plus years, depending if it's principal. And she has a lot of knowledge that she can give us. So right now, we're just looking at the possibility of bringing her on to guide us. And this is more so a guiding us. We can't think we're perfect, so we need help too. Ann, are you on?
I am on.
Yeah.
The host just needs to enable the video. If you can hear me, the host just needs to enable the video.
Slight delay, wasn't it? I just thought
I-
about it. Can I have my picture back? I don't want you analyzing me. I'm just kidding. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's for you.
I didn't analyze you. I analyzed you.
I'm so glad. She's just speaking. She is able to speak?
I can speak.
Can I
You just
say it?
need to, I am, you just need to enable the video. The host needs to enable the video.
The volume won't come on the board, she's only on this computer.
Oh,
She's mirrored though.
Put it up.
I'm not. If you mirror, then it, then it'll get it.
no, they are actually.
I know, but I wanna know what we do with the battle.
No, they did. They bought- Yeah, some of the stuff was on the video. But this is. That's, yeah, it's the work. But yeah, it's our work. Oh, there's that.
Hey.
Oh.
Maybe they didn't look at that analysis. Yeah, no, that's true, they didn't look, they didn't. Sure, that's variable, I'm sure.
Yeah. And just put it on
Research,
speaker.
there's some variable.
On the Zoom, can you look at the view and then say?
Should we just have her on the phone? Like on the phone?
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. Can anyone hear me?
Have her on mute.
We just put you in that. We don't, we're not.
That's cool.
You guys doing
Put her on speaker.
Just come on a computer, you'll be fine.
Well, we're just like.
Yeah. This is kind of here.
Hi,
And
Audio.
hello.
I'm gonna try to see if we can put you on speaker. Do we have a Bluetooth speaker in here? Somewhere? Okay, we're trying to work out this. I thought it would be easier to have. It says the host has disabled her video. So maybe. Okay, let's see if we can. Can you see us?
I can.
Okay. Now what? If you're making a co-host, so. Can you start speaking?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
I don't know if you can hear her yet.
There you go. Can you hear me okay? Okay, can you hear me? I can hear you.
We're only getting it on your phone.
Yeah, it's on our phone. Does anybody have a better, speaker on their phone?
Do you have a microphone? Just put your phone by the microphone.
Oh, yeah. Like a.
All right, finish up that.
I know.
Okay, and
Hi.
everybody gather around? Probably. We are family.
Okay.
Just come closer if you want to hear it.
And then.
Or if you have a microphone as well, you can put your phone by the microphone.
We don't have a microphone.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's already up.
It's coming through here. Well.
Wait, do we have a,
This school does not have a tube, Bluetooth speaker, the little small ones. Okay. And then we can just plug it in. Right, right.
Okay, am I good to start?
Yeah, we're gonna start. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Andrew, can everyone hear me okay?
I can hear you. Because I'm sitting next to. Go ahead.
Okay, well, it's really great to see everyone again. I'm excited just to join you again. I feel like we spent many months together, many months together. And I just wanted to come back and to be able to talk with you about all of the great work that you did. You spent a long time making sure that you received input from your staff through that survey that we did together. And then we took all of that data and we analyzed that data and we talked through that data. And then as a team, you did a really good job of taking a look at all of the evaluation tools that are out there from Wisconsin Superintendent Association. And then we crafted your own unique type of evaluation tool. You took all of the input from the staff and from your community, your own observations, and you did an evaluation tool and provided that feedback to Allison. And then you were guiding her as she was setting goals and reporting back to you. So all of that work that we did I dropped off in June or July, but I just want you to know that I'm still here and available to be able to guide and help you through that continued process. And if that means, reviewing the goals that you had identified and areas that you wanted to work on as a school district with your leader, then so be it. Or if you would like to work in another capacity, you did a lot of great work together, and I just want to help you continue to do that work.
So now, I think what we need to do right now as a board is figure out, she has all these, I think all of us have seen her proposals at one time or another, but what exactly do we need her to help us with? One of my ideas is helping with the evaluation process. So as we evaluate our superintendent, we have some goals that we are hitting, and we're going to not wait until May and then decide, if she did a good job or not, or if she has some improvements, or we're going to do it in sections. So we're going to be evaluating where she's come from the last one till now in November. And then we're going to do one, I think it was in February, and then another one at the end of the year, because I think it was 3 of them. But we also need guidance through that, possibly. Help with
well, one of the things that I shared with you was the tool in and of itself. And then we talked about progress monitoring. So you did a summative evaluation, and then the cycle starts over again. So what little bits of information and how are you monitoring the progress of the work that's being done? And that's something that I'd be happy to help you with if you needed that help, and continue to collect that through whether it's one-on-one meetings together to go through the tool again and to gauge how things are going for you, and or to communicate out what your needs are as a board. What do you need in order to be able to make that summative evaluation be a productive tool?
So I believe, let me check before I open my mouth. So we you didn't send us an exact proposal?
I gave you a proposal in June. And that just kind of summarized what our next steps would be. And at that point, I thought that the next steps would be to monitor and support the goals and the action steps that were really developed as a result of your evaluation. So you did an evaluation, right? And that's great and that's awesome. But off of that evaluation, off of any evaluation, there's always areas to work on. So the goal was to be able to help and support you as you were working through those goals and through those action steps. So it's really down. I did the proposal for you just on an hourly basis because we talked about, was it going to be 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours? How many hours would it be? So I laid out for you about 15 hours a month. Now that may be way too much and you may need half of that. And then there's an hourly rate of that's laid out there for you.
Yeah, it was 10 hours.
15, go down on the bottom, yeah.
Back in June. So it was an hourly rate proposal.
Monthly.
I can tell you what the items were. 10 hours per month to meet with the superintendent to mentor, support, and progress monitor goals and action steps and develop review communication tool. 5 hours per month to meet with board president and our board team and communicate updates on work with the superintendent. It was about 15 hours a month. So I hate to prolong this, I would suggest that we fine tune a proposal to say how many hours do we need.
Agreed.
And what exactly what we want to do. So I guess what I would like to see this time is, number one, it looks like some of the board members never saw the proposal. You haven't seen it? I thought you guys. Yeah, I don't remember. Hourly rate. And that's how many for 15 hours.
Oh, that's per 15 hours.
Yes.
I'm not flatly denying that I saw it. I do not remember.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Possible I have it somewhere.
so I guess we could,
Those 10 hours might be very useful.
what I'm trying to say is, I think we may or may not know exactly how many hours we want.
Sure.
I think we could possibly right now discuss how many hours, but make sure that we take a vote that we do want to hire. And then we will work the contract. We're not saying we're going to sign a contract. It's just like we know we want to go on with the negotiations of this contract and see what we want. Because right now, I think it could be more, it could be less.
Well, I'd like to see what things we could offer to the board for board development in terms of board governance and
Sure.
just some of that strategic, I don't know. So not necessarily just the work with looking at the tool and getting the reports on the superintendent. I would sort of love to see some of that more.
So more expanded.
A little bit, yeah. So use some of that time for that.
Sure. Have you gone forward with a strategic planning
That's the other
process?
thing I wanted to ask you about, because at last meeting, you talked us through strategic planning in a way that I had never heard it talked about before, how it could be done in 3 days and how it wasn't sort of, you don't have to overthink it as much and we could still do the community engagement piece as, but it didn't necessarily have to occur before you start doing some of that
Yes.
strategic planning part. And I would love to see your proposal for that too.
Okay, I'm a practitioner, so you just had a great team in front of you that shared with you that they've developed goals. And they did that together as a team. And really, that's your workhorse, is all of your workers that are out there in the schools every single day doing that work. And what you do through that strategic planning process is you develop those pillars of what you want to work on, and then you capture things like that team's work, and that becomes a part of your plan.
Right.
There is no doubt you have great things going on together. It's just really putting that all together. and capturing that. And that's kind of the work that I have done with other schools, is capturing that and making that strategic plan a living, breathing document that is just annually reviewed and not put on a shelf.
What if we, the mentorship, I mean, September could be very useful since it's the beginning of the year. It may not include until October, so it may not be implemented until November. What if we did something like 8 hours of mentorship at least for now, then revisit what you.
For mentorship.
Superintendent. Because it was proposed to be 10 hours, but if we do like 8 hours, 2 hours per week, and that might be very useful, and then we can come back and decide how much she should work with us.
I would put hours on there. I wouldn't put exactly what it is for what it is.
Okay.
I just say.
I'm just saying it's September, so it's, you know.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Let's just let's maybe identify 8 hours or 10 hours for the month of October, and we will meet again in October.
Sure.
I really, there's no motion ahead of us right now, but I gotta say, Ann knows how much I worked with her and how highly I respect her, but I didn't see, the proposal, and I know it's by happenstance that, Ms. Weiss had her convention, but I don't feel right acting on this today without her present, for her input. I mean, I think that goal setting has to be something that's collaborative, and, she's a big part of that conversation, so I really have to do anything.
That is why I think I said we will put, because there is stuff that she can help us with that have nothing to do with the superintendent. I mean, in the sense of like governance goal stuff, of just building us. And we can put a few hours in for that, or helping build that, and then expanding it more. I just want to, we can wait for another month if you have to.
Especially, could we ask for just a more clear proposal?
Right.
Everybody gets eyes on within the next week. And could we
Actually, what we can do is put it on, even because we're meeting on the October 6th, we can put it on that agenda. Put it, the first thing that we do on that agenda, even because we're working on it, it is an open meeting, so
that's 2 weeks away.
We could put that on there and we could get a better.
Fine tune with that.
Right.
What we
So you're saying put her proposal up there and action item as policy? Yeah. Okay.
It's a school board meeting, we're just calling it a policy, but technically we can put whatever we want on the agenda, as long as we post it and make sure.
I'm good with that.
All right, so, and we are going to put this on our agenda I will reach out to you and so will Allison, to kind of get the nuts and bolts of the proposal would be like.
Okay.
Get some input from the board to see what they want to see, and we'll show them. I think some people did not see the other one.
Okay.
And just take some out, add some in. We'll do a la carte and then see what you come up with.
That sounds great.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
All
I
right.
appreciate you waiting.
Thank you very much. And thanks for all the work you continue to do, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Needs some working around that. When we look at our second goals, like implementing district wide systems of processes that support for age more productive progress or learning. There's a lot of work happening around that as well. So we have a lot of very important against of the training that's going to be happening on September 23rd, part of our day. Another part of that day is going to be doing partly is going to be very much work around their wing time. Really being the central focus around what how we can support students. So really
Up with that.
Did you say win time?
Yep, what I need now.
Oh, okay.
So just really being intentional about learning for students and support. So it might be, a student might be in an SEL group, or they might be in an academic, it all depends on what their need is. So it's not a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Also, really, again, those CST meetings, it's so important to have our student support team members at those meetings. So we're not just talking about academics, we're also talking about behaviors, mental health, SEL needs. And then again, the SST teams and administration are working together. Also, those caregiver newsletters are coming out by classroom teachers as well. So we talked about the monthly caregiver letters that are coming out from the SST team. We're now, the expectation is that classroom teachers are also sending out a weekly communication. The principals are sending out a bi-weekly communication, and district office is going to be sending out a monthly communication. So we're really focusing in on that communication piece and really streamlining this. I see you with the timing, right? And we were very intentional with our timing, so not to overwhelm families as well. So we were put the district communication on an alternate weeks of the principal's communication. So really kind of being thoughtful about that. And also
on the first day of the month.
and also streamlining the communication so it has a similar format, so that we're looking, when a parent's looking at it, they can see it in the same format. So that it's going to be really supportive and helpful as well. But also allowing teachers to have a little bit of flair, right?
And you're kind of starting that charting timing of communications throughout the year, then, right, for the communications work we're doing too. So
Well, I did that.
yeah,
That's,
I wonder who was in charge of that.
that'll be next in a couple weeks, since it's not on Monday.
That's right. Okay.
Okay, so then ongoing, we're really ratcheting up really the culture in the building. So really focusing in on expectations the first couple of weeks. I mean, if you walk through the buildings, it's amazing. I mean, there's some really good things happening, and it's wonderful. Hearing nothing but really positive things from students, from staff, from families. Many of you have been in the buildings, and you can just feel it. It feels really good. So what's happening is some really positive things. And then, as mentioned before, that student support team newsletters come out as well. So really kind of queuing in on that communication, and then also really working really hard to meet the needs of students and staff.
So I Googled bi-weekly, and it says it means both twice a week and every other week. You just have to know how it's being used. So bi-weekly means every other week, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just to make sure. Because I was thinking this is a whole lot of communication, so. But bi-weekly, you guys mean every other week, right? Does collaborative support team mean something specific? I haven't.
A group getting together to have discussions around, it's like a collaborative support team meeting, so collaboration around how we're providing support.
No, I mean, who's in the collaborative support team at each school? Is that like a defined
It
cohort?
depends, like the grade level teams are usually meeting and discussing the students that they have in their grade level, but also the coaches are coming in to help support some of the academics. The SST team is coming in, and administration.
Okay, so it's just a general term you use to mean different groups of people.
Right.
Are you the one organizing and sort of picking cohorts and teams, or how does that kind of happen?
That's a building.
Okay. Okay. That's a lot of meetings. When are they happening?
CST meetings?
No, I will, like, okay, weekly instructional meetings with instructional coaches and interventionists. I imagine that's with various, so the coaches, interventionists are meeting with teachers.
So they're meeting with the admin.
Oh, with admin.
They meet with admin.
Okay.
And they do also meet with grade level teams, so we have it on a rotating schedule where our
Okay.
ELA coaches meet with ELA teams once a
Okay.
week.
Okay.
And then, it's on alternating weeks. Over here, it's a little different because of just math. So
Is it
it's
during
every
prep
other week.
time? Is it lunchtime? Is it after school?
During their planning time
During planning. Okay.
to help
And then-
support the plan.
And then I would assume maybe some of this happens during some of the professional development days too, or most of this is sort of built into the days. Oh, okay.
And most of this, a lot of the meeting is more instructional coaches that are doing a lot of the meetings.
Okay.
If you look at this, but for the CST meetings, those are every other week,
Okay.
that they're meeting, and then over at Parkway, it's less. Because teachers are doing multiple content areas, so they meet less for the CSTs.
Anyone in the audience have questions on principals or school reports? Anyone else on the board?
I just have a request, a general one, for, I think it was at the end of June, our school report was like really detailed, something that, maybe Anna had put together around culture, climate, behavior. But we were also talking about block scheduling at the time, we were talking about music, and I was feeling like, whenever it seems appropriate, it would be nice to have this be part of a more detailed update in the school update. Maybe it's a few months
It's on
on
the agenda for October.
Oh.
To have
block scheduling
follow-up.
update. Oh,
follow up, because you can't have a block schedule update when you don't really, it's.
right, I mentioned.
So,
give it
right.
some time,
So
but
it was-
music, block scheduling,
It was
yeah,
put on the agenda to bring back the behavioral and the block scheduling.
Oh, perfect.
update in October.
Disregard comments.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm just telling you.
Okay, great.
We kind of planned it a little bit.
I do want to say one thing real quick, which is, as I read the summary, one thing that I see coming through is some more definitiveness, particularly, goal setting. For example, setting 5% goal on achievement. One thing that I don't think that we've had a lot of, we keep talking about, and I've said it before about having metrics and about having goals set. And before, Allison came to the administration, before you were in your role, I don't think that we had a lot of organization in terms of identifying those components of STAR testing and the report card that we thought were falling short, and then having a specific plan of action on how to address those things. Now, we made it abundantly clear, we care about equity, we care about social emotional learning, we care about all these different aspects of the report card, in spite of, I think, some unfair elements of that. But what I kind of parse coming out is a bit more of a concrete approach to trying to drive improvement. And so I just want to encourage that, because I think that metrics are important. Sharing those goals and being held accountable to that publicly is important. And so I hope to see more of that going forward.
And one of the great things about the sale training that we did and just the communication around that is the administration knows what the goals are. The staff knows what the goals are, and really the students know where they're going to. So really just kind of making it, we're all in kind of approach. And that also aligns with culture too, right? We're here to support each other and we're all moving in the same direction. And that progress monitoring needs to be a part of it as we work through the year as well. So thank you.
Let's that. I am apologetic, but we are so ready. I'm excited.
We are, again, not able to figure out how to protect Anna, or Hannah from Greenprint Partners. So Lindsay is volunteer. I first forgot my phone. Today was a very busy day. So I apologize for that. I think we'll work on it. But I wanted to start, so thank you all for taking the time to hear about the work that the green team and that students have been working on here in our school grounds, because this project is very much student driven. Each year, sorry, I'm Miss Clark, I'm Jen Clark, the green team. I'm also the former eighth grade teacher. I've been with the district for 10 years now. Kind of what everything, one point of seventh grade ELA, sixth grade ELA, the background and all that stuff, but the green team has been around for quite some time. Jim Beckman and some former staff made a lot of really great improvements to the school. We are an award-winning green school. We have been working on a lot of green initiatives in the last decade that I've been here. So keeping that legacy going with the green team, each year students come up with an initiative. So green initiative, what can we do to help reduce, reuse and recycle, and reduce our impacts on the environment, then also help educate others on the importance of caring about that. And so each year the green team does do an initiative. Last year's 7th and 8th grade team decided that they wanted, especially post-COVID, to have outdoor learning spaces. They felt that it was really important and wanted to think about how we could do that. So students started with an initial concept, working together, brainstorming ideas, coming up with, ideas from doing gnomes in art class to going into 4th grade classrooms and teaching them about our Glen Hills ecosystem.
Recording and
It's a variety of different ideas that all came and were born from that student work. We were fortunate enough to connect with Greenprint Partners, which is an organization that is contracted through the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, and they're doing a lot of work in our community and greater Milwaukee area to help reduce stormwater runoff. And one of the ways that they are doing that is through helping with the Green Schoolyards project. They do work with MPS companies and through another company called Reflow as well. Greenprint Partners is kind of like the semi-suburban support. So it's a design firm. Hopefully we can get Hannah going so she can explain that. Are we gonna get there? Okay, so one of the slides that hopefully will be up in a minute was last June, we were able to move forward with phase 1. So the project is phased out into several phases, and the first phase was more a grassroots effort because we really wanted to try and let our 8th graders have their vision realized partially even before they moved on to life. And so, and I apologize for not being able to have them here tonight, but that's how it goes with high schoolers sometimes. Just anywho, one of these days we'll get kids in here to talk about you of how they are enjoying that spaces. So we had dozens of volunteers. We had connected with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the National Junior Honor Society. Community members came out and literally helped us plant almost 400 plants, move tons of mulch, and kind of establish the foundation for phase 1. We're also working with the city of Glendale to help acquire materials that would normally go into either the mulcher or just sit or not be utilized. And so one of the goals with the project too is that it's sustainable and that we're using nature-based products that are going to be safe for kids, but also safe for the environment. So that's one of the partnerships that we were able to come up with. Would you mind going to the next one?
I'm gonna try it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're gonna try Hannah? Yay. So Hannah's been working with our students since last November-ish, when we had discussions with Allison, Anna Young, and Lindsay about kind of letting the students run with this project and see where it goes. And so as we worked with that, Hannah came and collaborated, met with students, talked to them about their vision. The students came up with a big schematic and a vision board, and they collaborated. And then Greenprint Partners is the organization that can actually help us realize it and do it right. Because I like to think I can do a lot of things, but I don't think I can completely design it so that it's gonna last. So, since the 11th, though, so here's some pictures of like where it's at now. We've utilized a lot of those trees. We've built some raised bed gardens, repurposed from logs, that were cut by our 5 years of custodial staff, but also, parent volunteers as well. The students over summer academy helped build those raised garden beds and helped move log borders. We added additional plants and some garden vegetables, things like that. So with each class over the summer academy, each class came into the scene, we're working it into those projects. So we really wanted to try and keep this to our 10-minute slot. So
I'm gonna put her on it. Just gonna give feedback if you're talking. That's fine.
yeah, perfect. So I'm gonna turn it over to Hannah and then I can field more questions.
Hannah, can you hear?
I can. Can you hear me?
Hannah?
Yep. Oh, I'll try this. Hi.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you for the introduction.
That was really nice. If you could
go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So we were able to work with the green team and Jen, as well as Principal Young and Lindsay and a variety of different teachers at Glen Hills Middle School to come up with the master plan for the site. This is born from a bunch of ideas that were thrown out, and we tried to figure out how to fit them all into one site plan. So if you go to the next slide, the main feature is these outdoor classroom spaces that Jennifer was discussing. So having places for multiple forms of use. So some of them more formal lecture, some of them more hands-on, doing raised garden beds, a little bit of nature-based play area where kids can run around, as well as potentially a game area for the chess club to use, and an amphitheater and stage seating that could also be used for more performance-based or lecture, and potentially some picnic tables for group work. And so we worked at figuring out how to create all of these spaces next to the school in a way that would be accessible for all. So some of these spaces I've proposed would be using pavers or crushed aggregate so that anyone can access the space and it's open to everyone at the school. Next slide, please. And then we have some spaces we're looking at being incredibly accessible. So more of a formalized concrete, like a patio space, where more formal benches or workstations are available that would be ADA accessible at the height that can be accessed, as well as ADA accessible raised garden beds that would allow everyone to participate in urban agriculture, including folks at the senior center. They would like to use this space as well. Next slide, please. So that was a lot in our master plan, and we're excited about all of the different components. And speaking with Lindsay, we talked about potentially breaking it up into multiple phases that are more approachable for each year, and each year could reanalyze which ones we want to move forward. So I took a first pass at breaking it into phases based on the type of use for the campus, but these could be mixed and matched depending on priorities of the school. So phase 1 is what was just presented on and is close to complete. Phase 2 would involve additional outdoor classroom spaces, as well as more native plantings and rain gardens. This would be potentially slated for construction this upcoming summer, because we have a lot of grant resources available to us through my company's contract with the Milwaukee Metropolitan Stewardship District. We looked at phase 3 being more of our urban agriculture group with greenhouses, raised garden beds, compost bins, and identified the USDA Farm to School grant that is helpful for providing funding for these types of resources. Phase 4, there was interest from the gym teacher to have a half-mile track more formally established that could be used in both gym class and by community members to walk laps around the sports fields, as well as exercise stations that could be designed to be more natural looking and fit in with the campus. And phase 5 would potentially be that larger, more formalized concrete patio space with shade and ADA accessible functions. Next slide, please. So zooming in on just phase 2 for right now, that is the part my company would be most helpful for. We do engineering for green stormwater infrastructure and would look at completing engineering designs this fall for approval. That would allow us to have winter and early spring to help gather the information and apply for grant funding. That could allow for construction as early as next summer if everything's ready, but we could also delay a summer as well. And then maintenance would be ongoing from that point forward. I included this as very wordy first slide, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I wanted it to be available after this meeting for anyone who wants to dive into the details of kind of the exact timeline of how this would go down. But I'll bring your attention towards the last 3 lines. So if we were to move forward with this project and receive grant funding, we'd be notified of that award in May, and then we would sign a funding agreement between the school and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District in June, which makes sure that there's an agreement that you will be paid for any construction that happens that point forward. At that point, construction can begin right away, or you can wait up to 2 years if budgets aren't right or there needs to be a delay for other reasons. Construction of these types of facilities, green stormwater and outdoor classrooms, typically take less than 2 months. And then as soon as construction is complete, the school can be reimbursed for the construction costs. So there is an outlay of cash in June or July that would not be reimbursed until September. Next slide, please. So we looked at identifying the different funding sources for phase 2 of the project. It would be primarily looking at the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District's grant program. But then we've also had discussions with the city of Glendale, who has a public works department that is interested in matching funds to the green stormwater program. So they will have to go in front of their board for final approval, but they've budgeted aside some money for this project if it were to move forward. We've also, as discussed, been able to get wood chips, stumps, and logs from the city of Glendale, but there are some features of the outdoor classroom that don't have a funding source, such as the picnic tables or the ADA compliant crushed aggregate for access. So I've provided a very brief estimates of ranges for those different components, and we can dive into those in the future if there are any questions. And one thing that Lindsay and I spoke about is a nice part of outdoor classrooms is we can kind of scale up or down depending on resources available. So if we want to do very formal benches or picnic tables, or we want to do a cheaper option of stumps, we can kind of work with the different options to scale to the correct budget that meets your needs. Next slide. So what's required? This is my last slide. There will be some documents coming forward if we were to move forward. The big one to highlight is the last 2 lines. It's the conservation easement. So if this project is constructed, there is an agreement to maintain it for 11 years. So we need to make sure that anything we put in and the money is being funded by MMSD is maintained for at least 11 years on your site. So I will leave it at that and open it to any questions. And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you tonight.
what students want to see. We would look at updating phase 2. This is
course, you know, expenditures and grant writing and obligation without having something formed for the board to approve. So at what point do we get something the board's gonna have to act on to cement, you know, these relationships that we have and the things that
I
we
mean, I
have?
think this is the starting point. So where do we go from here then to make that commitment so we can start moving forward? So I don't know, I guess I don't know what you need from me.
Well, I mean,
beyond
we're
that.
talking about phase 2. I
Yeah.
need this speed, and, you
No,
know,
and I know, I wanna know too.
and I'm not hostile, I
Yeah.
just,
I think maybe.
Hold on, before you say that, I just want to say that Andy and I, we were on the buildings and grounds and we saw this presentation. We were loving it. It was great.
Yeah.
But and this is I think what Andy's trying to say is before even buildings and ground had even seen it, they had already torn it up. And that is okay. And we're okay with it. It's just that when we're doing something to the property here, even though it's a great idea, we should at least know about it. The board should at least know about it. So that was a mistake that everybody made because we just didn't know.
we were excited.
We're excited and now, only thing is now, I think the next step is to figure out, you have a plan. You have said, this is what the plan is. Now I think it's going back to, Lindsay, saying, Lindsay, do we have this money? What is it gonna look like? How are we gonna fund our part of it? Also making sure that the other funding sources are on board as well.
And it's almost like the cart before the horse, because
Right.
part of the process, I mean, like, Green Team's been talking about this since last year. We've had meetings with the superintendent and it being a grassroots sort of effort. And not thinking that it was like some of the projects that we do around here don't always end up coming to the board. So I think where we are right now with all of this is kind of looking at what can we focus on with phase 2? And then we can start doing some of that, those, you know, following up with the city of Glendale. We can start putting some fundraising things in place on our end. But so,
I mean, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean following up City of Glendale? In my mind, it's a third party. I mean, it's one thing if it's you, Lindsay, if it's our school and grant writing comes from you and it follows whatever our fees are. It's another thing to delegate to a third party, you know, this whole process of, you know, really, you know, grant writing and whatnot.
but that's also a green.
So all I'm asking is, you know, are we, and the next step, we're looking at phase 2, there was, some of the start, I mean, started spring 2022, we're talking about, you know, construction by, 2023. You know, there's questions about obtaining the funding starting in fall. Are we gonna get a package together?
Hannah and I had a conversation, because my question was, what is the cost of the district is expected, like that you're looking for the district? Because I want to make sure it's something that we can afford and do sustainably, so that we're not having a project all of a sudden don't have funding anymore. So,
And that's all I want to make sure of,
Yeah.
that we're not, obligating ourselves to something
no,
without the board, being, kept abreast of.
so, and I think she touched, like Hannah touched on it in the presentation, like there's no commitment until June of next year. And so that's what she's starting to, like, what she was planning out with all those different phases, or all those different pieces. She has the cost, and so then it's deciding what is the amount that the district is willing to front, because my concern was, okay, are we fronting, let's say, 100,000, how long does it actually take for us to get that reimbursement back from the grant? Because I, like, from a financial perspective, I can't have that crossing over to fiscal year, and,
It's
like,
just
how
that,
long does that take?
no, I understand it. It's just that when I read some of the stuff about grant writing and whatnot, it seems like everyone's in a hurry to go out, get funding and look at all these things. And when I read it, September, 2022 engineering design plan provided for review and approval in September. What's been given to the board for review and approval and so forth.
So I think that's the conversation that we started, is just getting the, okay, what are the priorities that they really would like to see done? And then let's get the cost, and then of those costs for that phase, what is going to come from grants, like from the grants, what's gonna come from the Hannah's company, what's gonna come from the district? And that's what we would bring to buildings and grounds, and then to the board, because it would be a big expense. So we
And
want to make sure everybody.
And on top of that, you have to have, to write the grants, you have to have a plan.
Because
So-
we're asking them to do. a lot of
Right,
work,
so-
So they just need to know, is this something that we're interested in, but yes, we need to know what the costs are, so is it, we're gonna commit to paying. Let's say 50,000 a year, I'm just thinking, let's say we're committing to 50,000, okay, but then that gives them a scope of, this is the amount of the district upfront, not getting reimbursed, would be willing to pay, and then building from there.
I also want to have a sense of what are, not just in terms of cost, and not just in the sense of, in terms of, going out and getting grants or asking for money, but what our relationship is, and how that's going to be, appropriate, if it's coming to the board, if it's going through you, however that is. So my concern is purely procedural, mind you. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't support what's going on. It's just that I want to make sure that what we're doing is being done in a way that's accountable, to the board. That's all I'm trying to.
I think a lot of it has happened with Hannah and Clark, and so I think now it's just starting the relationship with the district and like with what they've already done, and so we're in the early phases of it, but we're starting to get a vision of what we wanna, how we wanna lay it out and what would be sustainable, and then that's giving me a better idea, because I told Hannah today, I'm like, I'm hesitant to commit to anything because I need our board to tell me that it's okay, but I also like need to know where we're gonna be financially, and like we talked about a lot of budget presentations, like we're, not looking to get a lot more funding coming from the state. I want to make sure that whatever we fund, I'm comfortable with, it's still giving us the cushion for in the future. So, and in the early phases.
And also to look at, if fundraising happens, it's different things. I mean, it may not even come from the school, it might come from an organization that says we want to, foundation. We love this idea. We love this idea, and we fund something that's, great for the school, and so you never know where it's gonna come from, or what it's gonna be. The only thing that I had an issue with was like the dirt being moved, and it's like, okay, we didn't even know. You corrected that, you gave me a pretty presentation, you showed me that it was more so to amplify the 8th graders and the students to make sure they had some ownership of it, which I understand, and it's not that big of a deal. I just, future, I think we all know what to do now, and so this is nothing that we're talking about. This is just a presentation. There's no action right now. There's, this is just a discussion. So I think you'll be back.
Yes, so this is again to make sure everyone's aware of what we've been working on, getting the go ahead. And that's what Hannah's area of expertise is to help write those grants. They have the relationship with MMSD. She broke down a summary of what that would look like potentially, but we still have to figure everything out. But there is a timeline that we are on. So we would have to make sure we're scheduling out some of that time, and then we know what we need or what we need to be presenting to.
question? I love this. I'm so excited about all of it. I'm curious about who is responsible for maintenance now for what's out there, who that falls to.
So right now, the plan, I've been working with Summer Academy to do it. And the plan is to incorporate it into the classrooms and into the STEAM classroom.
Oh.
And so, utilizing the spaces, but then also we would do, a couple Saturday events, community events.
Okay.
I've also partnered with, I have some interest in the Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts coming and doing service hours. I've had several through like NJHS and former high school students come back to do some work. So there's a lot of opportunities to help with that. As part of like the green team, we would take on some of that role as well. But it would be kind of an all hands on deck thing. One other thing though, we would have to discuss some maintenance hours from our custodial staff, because like we can't drive the tractor with kids, and taking out a chainsaw is really not good.
Yeah.
That's something we're gonna do. And so we're breaking down those hours as well. So like right now they do help with twice a year. There's Saturday events that we've been doing for a few years now. NJHS and Green Team partner with those. And so we have like them twice a year for 8 hours. And so as we're starting to build out these plans, we're looking at realistically, how many hours would we need to be asking? So that it's part of the budget, so we know, and we can even schedule out some things.
Okay, sorry, one more comment though. So in its current phase, is it accessible now, or is phase 2 where you're looking to build in some accessibility?
Yeah, so right now, we do have donations from the community. Excuse me, we have pavers, pallets of them down in storage. And it's just a matter of finding the resources for either volunteers to come and help lay. We wanted to add pathways that would kind of go throughout all of the spaces. And then that would make it more ADA accessible for the existing ones that we have. But again, it's just, we haven't gotten there yet. But yes.
Yeah, my only comment is that it makes me a little sad that the last phase is 4 years off, and that's the one that has like the actual accessible ADA.
They're the part of it that one of the pieces that Hannah and I talked about, they're the
Yeah.
part of the first initial plan that is.
Yes, and that's where like the pavers, so we would be making these spaces here, we'd be adding that in. We just haven't gotten there yet, because all of this has been mostly grassroots.
And since you said this is all some things you can reconsider or
Yes.
think about, I guess when I look at where the ADA accessible classroom is, it feels like sort of separate from the space, which may be a necessity of logistics, I don't know, but just to think about
That's a good
that, I
point.
love that you are incorporating it into the main space, but to have the fully ADA accessible one be some, still sort of separate, it's just something to consider.
No, we did, and part of the rationale for that is when students were looking at the spaces, that space gets a lot of really great sun. And it also has the door right out here, and then there's already an existing
That's what I
pathway
was
that
thinking,
goes
right,
down.
right.
So it would be like, you don't have to build another pathway, that could be utilized as part of the classroom, and a lot of those raised beds would go along that pathway.
Yeah.
So, but we can look at it again, because there are still opportunities here, but we
Or
did
just,
a lot of.
we're exploring the opportunity in this space to
Yeah.
really like. flesh that
Well, we're
out.
definitely adding that because, and we do have a lot of students that are coming out in the spaces now, but we want to make sure that it's very easily accessible.
Thank you for getting all of this coordinated.
Of course. I just want to say I love you, Jen. I already know that. I love that you're doing this. And this is like a great board meeting for me because I think green spaces and outdoor space and outdoor time is so essential to student, to human mental health.
Yep.
So to me, it's all connected. I'm just so grateful you're doing all this. And I'm interested in this conversation to learn that there's something else that I don't know about with grants, because I know teachers in our schoolhouses get grants sometimes. So I need to learn about when board approval is required for grants.
And that's something I need to know too. I guess I wasn't sure on the process.
Because
Right.
Well, and I'm not sure what is, but usually we have, and you would know, better than I would offhand with the supervisor.
Yep, I'm looking at new grants. Like I said, they want for moving, it's just different features, there's a lot of them that support us.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Any other questions? I just need to.
All right,
thank you, Hannah.
so onward.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you.
to
Thank you.
board president update. Thank you. I just have two, little pieces of business to deal with. First is the equity committee. The equity committee is an ad hoc committee of policy. Last year, when we started the ad hoc committee, myself and Ben Wynn were on the policy committee, and then myself and Danielle was on the equity committee. But there was still one person separating between making decisions for the policy as well as this year, Danielle and I are both on the policy committee, so I feel I need to step off of the equity committee. And I want to appoint Carla Pennington Cross to the equity committee, so there's still that one person that is not on board and can kind of, I don't know, not just have that committee actually be the policy. So I am pulling myself off, and they will be co-chairs of the ad hoc committee, which is the equity committee, and they will be having their first meeting tomorrow, I believe. They're having the first meeting tomorrow to get started, and in our next policy meeting, we will, actually, it may be sooner than that, but we have the proposals for who is going to help us with that equity work. Because I got the last one. But, so that's just an update. So I think she'll do an amazing job. The second piece is the K-5 enrollment. Simmer down. We got it under control. K-5 enrollment is, and Danielle, you were right, I was wrong. I just want to make sure.
What?
I admit I'm wrong all the time. I'm just, hey, you guys know what word I call myself. And I think what it is actually have 2 classes at 24 and 3 classes at 23. Our policy says 18 to 23, so we have 1 class that has 1 more, 2. Or 2, you said 2 classes. Actually, 2 classes at 24, 3 classes at 23, so we have 2 classes that have 1 more than our policy has. The count happened on the 3rd Friday. You have to look at the day before the count and the Monday after the count to get the full, how many people are actually here. They have a meeting on Monday to discuss options on what to do about this. If, and I'm just letting you know, if it's just adding staff, doesn't need to come to the board. If we need to add more classrooms, or if we can do a board meeting, but we need to have them make the decision. It will be the building and the person that will be in these meetings. I think it will be Allison, Brian. What's their last names? Dr. Smith, Mr. Prager, Miss Weiss, and Jennifer, Miss Westfield, Lindsay. So they will be, Johnson, they will be together deciding and making a decision on what they think is best. And then if it's a board decision that the board needs to do, we won't wait until October, the October meeting. We will put together a regular, a special school board meeting to decide on it. If it's something that the board doesn't need to do, and they might just hire another para or whatever the situation is, they will just get it done. So I just wanted to explain that. We're giving them time to figure out what they did. We just got the information. Okay, any questions or concerns about what I just said? Go right ahead.
Well, I'm going to stand.
Yes,
up.
yeah.
Do
Please
I need to
stand.
stand?
You need to,
Okay.
you don't have
You
to
don't have to
stand,
stand.
but you have to, please say your
I'm
name.
Katie Steele. My address is 2274 West Chelsea Drive. And I'm here to speak about the K-5 enrollment. I'm sorry that you feel like it's percolating and that you need to tell us to simmer down, because I do actually feel
pretty strongly that this is a problem that is multifaceted, and I wanted to start out by saying I'm very pleased to be a parent in this district with such an amazing attempt at student services. And, you know, I love the fact that my two children, by the way, I have two children in Parkway, one in second grade and one in K5. But I love that my children come home and they talk about Mr. Tilley just the way they talk about Mrs. Charney and Mrs. Lingard and everybody else. And that speaks really well of this district, of which I'm very pleased. But I wish that we would talk about this class size, not as an antagonistic problem, but a global problem. Because I feel like I would encourage the board to figure out why we are in this situation with K5. And it seems to me as this must have been an issue perhaps a little bit last year in K4, one that we should have been more proactive about. And it really is interesting to me, and I commend the district for having these goals, school goals of raising STAR assessment scores in literacy and math by 5%. But I directly ask, how is that going to happen when your numbers are so high? What happens if a next door neighbor moves into the house next door to me and has 2 or 3 or 4 students that need to be in that? What if there's twins or whatever? I mean, that is a problem. What are we going to do when families come into this district? What are we going to do in this class going forward to first grade and second grade and third grade and forward? Because it's not a problem that we can just fix based on this third Friday number. And I would agree, Ms. Westfall, that this scheduled communication from Parkway is helpful on certain levels. I have received a lot of information from the school psychologists about SEL activities, which I'm very happy about. There are some communications that have been informative to me as a parent, but I would respectfully disagree that communication has been plentiful from Parkway, especially if you are a new family or have younger children. But not one elementary parent, to my knowledge, received information from the school about the bus, unless you called right away yourself or had a teacher that met with you in the Ready, Set, Go meeting and beyond all of the other things they were trying to inform us of in that Ready, Set, Go meeting while our children are sitting there. That was then had to become their responsibility to also tell us the bus. Which in the past I've been told by Dr. Smith at Parkway that the bus isn't even their responsibility necessarily. So it doesn't really correlate why the teacher is now responsible for the bus. There was no communication from the school, etc. So I would just respectfully disagree that the communication that's important for especially younger families new to the district, or coming out of this COVID cloud, has not been great for these past 3 weeks. And I have not been in this district long. I have a second grader, but in the time that I have participated at board meetings or in community involvement having to do with how to deal with COVID and whatnot, there have been 2 important points that have been hammered home a lot by this board and a lot by this district. Number one, every child, every day, whatever it takes. So the whatever it takes is getting me to come to a board meeting, making sure that you know that this is very concerning to me, because not only is it concerning about what's going to happen to my child if the teacher has to be hired in October, November, etc. What's the quality of that teacher going to be, perhaps? And these are 5 and 5-year-olds who are getting into a routine for the first time in half of their life because of COVID. And did we do something wrong servicing them early on this past summer? Why is this now the problem? I understand the numbers are very close to what this board policy indicates, but underneath the recommendation of class sizes being, by the way, between 18 and 23, it does also say in the board policy, to what I've been told, that efforts will be made to keep the youngest class sizes at the smaller number and upper grades at the higher. So yes, we're looking at 23, but 18
is a lot less than 23, especially when you're dealing with 5-year-olds. And when you add in all of the bodies of not only children, but people who have paras, special ed students who have paras with them full time, the additional teacher plus the regular classroom teacher plus their para. It just seems like a very complicated problem, and I would urge you as a board, please investigate why we are in this situation. What is special about this year beyond this class size, and how can we possibly make sure that our kids are carefully attended to in the same way that every kid is attended to in an SEL respect or in a green spec, you know. It's just, that seems something we really have to do in order to meet our goal of 5% increase.
So
Thank you.
So there's a couple of things that you should understand. Number one, there's a matrix, like skip COVID, skip everything, you know, just like in our regular everyday, how we plan out. They do a 3-year, like kind of synopsis on levels of who's in the district, who's out in the district. And basically for a long time, it's been, you know, pretty good. You know, we can figure it out. It's a matrix of things. Well, the problem is for this year, there's a couple of things. Number one, there was 12 families that came within the last 2 weeks before school started, and they were K-5 kids. That has never happened before. Secondly, some of the homeschool people who had gone 2 years homeschool or at a private school decided to come back in at the last minute, not telling us early or anything like that. So at the time when July was happening and Allison and I were looking at the numbers, our kids, I think the highest of one of the K5 classes had 20 kids. They were like 18, 20, you know, so it was still 18, 20. Then all of a sudden what happened in August. Now, there was one thing that I will take full responsibility for is that both Ike and our secretary were on vacation at the same time, which I think some of this could have been caught a little bit earlier. And that is the district's fault for allowing that to happen to a say. So I'm going to take full responsibility for that, because it should have never been the person who is dealing with the numbers and then them going on a vacation at the same time in August, right before school starts. So I am going to take the full ownership of that and make sure that we talk to the superintendent so that never happens again. But overall, we do plan for this. We do look at this. This is not just something that they mark this, and you can talk to Jennifer. I know we have looked at different ways to do this every single year. Our numbers were super low, I mean, lower than normal for the last 2 years, but we still put some cushion in. It's just literally people just came back to the district and it happened. Now, what we will do, they will talk about what's going to happen for this K-5. We still will look at what we need to do for next year. If it stays the same, we're going to look at the numbers, and then most of the time we will add a certain amount of kids in, and then we'll lose a certain amount of kids depending on moving in, moving out. This has always happened, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this happened my second year on the board, where we actually had to have it added teaching because it was so, but it was something that just, we're public school. So if people move in, they move in. We try to do everything we can to plan for it, look at it, even over compensate at times. And that's all I'm saying. It's when I say, I guess when I said simmer down, it wasn't that you shouldn't be upset about it. I'm saying look, we are working on this. This is not something that we're taking lightly. This is not something that we're just going, oh, we'll figure it. No, they have been talking about this and I've been aware of it since the day school started. But we still had no way of doing anything because we didn't know if, and then there's still some verifications that need to be done as well.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, go ahead.
So one of the pieces is this year, part of the annual verification process was providing residential. That's been a really big piece of it, and all the North Shore districts do it. They've been doing it for several years, so it was a big change for a lot of families this year. But that also is one of the big factors that we're looking at. So, right, I know the last time I spoken with Dr. Smith and Mr. Prager and Mr. Perez was there was almost 20 students that we were waiting for verification from just K-5 alone. So that's why, you know, we're trying to be accommodating to families because we understand like sometimes getting that can be difficult, but also saying like we need this because if you're not a resident and state statute says that we have to make sure that we are giving an accurate count, that 20 students, that's a drastic difference in change of number of enrollment as well. So those are the like there's a lot of different pieces that we have to wait and factor in. So then we can say, okay, if even if it's 10 students that we have to unenroll, that's 10 students taken away from the 23, 24. So that's why we want to see all the numbers. And when we do the third Friday, it's not just looking at attendance, it's looking at students that are open enrolling and open enrolling out, tuition waiver. So there's a lot of different pieces that have to factor in that we have to look at and consider as a whole. And so to what Tamika was saying, it is definitely been our radar. It is something we are looking at. We want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for students because it would be a big change to take them out of the class. But we don't want to do that unless we have to. But we want to look at all the different options and make sure that we're doing whatever is best for the students, for the district. So it's definitely very important and it's on our radar.
And I want to add to the online registration piece. We've discussed that in our communications committee meeting as well, because we know that part of that we could have done better introducing that registration process. And we've talked about how to work on that for the next year, which would also include like actually having like tutoring or having people come in to do it to test the process out first and then figure out are we giving enough information. So that's one piece which shouldn't be an issue then as we move forward, because we're aware if that hindered anybody from getting information in a timely fashion, that hopefully that won't happen again. But to my point or what keeps coming up is sort of the communication. So some people were in the know. Slowly, parents or people found out. So I have sort of two questions that maybe there aren't necessarily. Well, one overarching question is how are teachers feeling about these class sizes? Because to me, a class size doesn't necessarily mean that it's unmanageable, or it might not mean a bad outcome. There's research to show reasonable class sizes, etc., may not necessarily dictate class outcomes, or larger classrooms may not. That being said, I'd be curious to know sort of what the teacher's feedback is on these classrooms and how that's factoring into the solution, and I hope that it is. And
so just let me answer your question. According to IDA and what's her name, Allison, it is a real concern for them. They have talked to IDA, they have talked to Ryan, so they both are very aware that the teachers are very concerned about the size of the classroom right now. So they are concerned about
and are including them in
yes
their considerations. So then my only other ask would be after this meeting and the things are decided, I don't know that it's not that you necessarily have to communicate out your exact plan. I think perhaps some of this could have been managed by communicating from the moment we knew and we could say, we know, we're monitoring, we're going to do the best we can for your teachers, for your kids. It's just something that keeps people in the loop. So when you're finding out after the fact and from different people, different perspectives, I know it's a balance between you don't want to set everybody off oh my God, my kid's in, but I think we have to walk that line sometimes and just err on the side of being more transparent than holding it until we have a solution. We're not always going to have a solution, and I'm not sure that's what everybody cares about. What they care about is knowing that we're looking into it and doing something about it. So that would be my suggestion going forward.
I think the big thing is that, like Dr. Smith and my, Mr. Krager and, Ms. Myers has been just reiterating, saying that that third Friday count is what we're kind of waiting for, and just to be consistent with that. And I know, Ms. Myers had a couple of numbers from her, so she, and then, and Mr. Krager had those, and just that consistent message, because we really are waiting for that.
Yeah, but I talked with Allison. She said that's been the communications to staff, but I'm
Hold on,
talking
hold on,
about, to-
hold on.
I just want to clarify, I'm talking about to the community, to families.
Yes,
That's
okay.
where I might have missed it.
And I think we're not, Wednesday after the third Friday. Third Friday has already happened.
So third Friday is the Friday, and then it's always the day before and the day after.
I understand, but now it's Wednesday and that was Monday, so.
But then you have to get the open enrollment numbers and some other numbers, so it's not just, oh my God, we have this number.
Because with open enrollment, we have to wait for other districts to put all of their enrollment. So that's why these
There
are
was
like 3 weeks to file this report, because there's so many pieces of information.
Matt,
Chrissy Russell, kindergarten teacher at Berkeley School. I am here with another teacher, parent teacher, in an effort to be a face to this discussion, and also for the hope that you will speak with us about this situation, because we are the ones that are living and breathing this situation every day. And we are concerned, all 5 kindergarten teachers are concerned. We are overwhelmed for our students. We are overwhelmed for ourselves. And I think the main thing that we want is communication in planning. If we know this is a problem, why can't we right now start talking about the plan? That's what we're asking. If the numbers stay the same, what are we gonna do? Why are we waiting to have a conversation about the plan until we already know, when we can be proactive and say, okay, if the numbers are the same, here are the options. And if this is one option, then what do we need to consider? Or so that we're not then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? We got all these kids, now what? When we could be having these conversations now and be prepared to best make those decisions if the time comes. But instead, we're going, and I understand the third Friday count, but again, we could be having these conversations to be proactive and to be prepared. Because to be honest, this is my 12th year teaching kindergarten. We get kids throughout the year. We don't get kids leave. We get more kids come. It is rare that we have kids leave our rooms. It is way more common that we get them continually to come in. So this isn't something that, yeah. So I guess that's my concern, is that we can be having some of these conversations now, and we don't have to be waiting. We have a PD day Friday. We have time that we could be talking about, are we gonna add a section, where would it go? And we could be, getting some of that pre-work done. And it's frustrating to me that we're always waiting, and then we're trying to do something after the fact. But right now we have an opportunity to kind of get ahead of it. And these kids, if they're gonna be moved, it should be sooner rather than later. First of all, they're K-5 students, I get it. I was a parent when my kids were little, that they created a new section at the beginning of the year, and I raised holy heck. And I'm gonna tell you, that was the best kindergarten teacher I ever had, and it's why I'm a teacher now, because of that teacher. And parents will get over it. Kids are really resilient. They've been in school for 13 days, but if you wait till 30 to move them, it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be a lot harder. So again, having these conversations and figuring out what some of those plans are, putting more bodies in the classroom, I can tell you, it's not gonna help right now. It will not help.
I'm just gonna piggyback what Chrissy said.
Can you say your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Carrie Feldrose. I do live in the district, great, Monrovia Avenue. Just to piggyback off of that and saying, yes, we have we were made aware of the Monday meeting, which we totally are like, okay, we're waiting with bated breath for the Monday meeting. I think as the teachers of these kids, it would be valuable to seek our input on what is best for them.
So I'm gonna tell you right now, I knew that those 4 people were in, what I just named. They said other people, but I just named the administrators that I know. So I'm just saying, I am not excluding you guys. I'm just letting you know.
Just putting it out there,
Right.
because I get that there are logistical things, there's financial things, there's space issues, there's staffing issues, we already can't find stuff, I understand, we get it, we live it every day. But we also know these kids best, and what is best for them. So if we can make that happen, it's just, I think it's in the best interest of everybody to at least solicit our point of view.
Do you think that it will happen? I mean, do
I
you
don't
feel,
know.
well, so what we can do is,
Regardless.
what I think we can do is give a very stern, make sure they are.
We're not trying to do this for ourselves.
No, I understand what you're, it's not,
We're not trying to make our lives any easier.
no.
Shape or
I don't think,
Because
if
that's what
any
we
of
did
you
last
guys thinking that they're trying to make themselves life easier, I don't think so.
Right now, it's a rock and hard.
Right,
There
and
are
I
no
get,
good choices.
and I get it. So I think one of the things we can do definitely is give a strong, stern, say, Allison, I should use their last names, Ms. Weiss, Dr. Smith. Make sure you include those teachers in this conversation. I know that Ryan has been,
Mr. Craig.
Mr. Krager has been communicating with you guys, because it has to go level up. I mean, it just, we have to keep some stability in the level up, and you guys have been going to Mr. Krager, and he's been relaying things to Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith has had open communication with Ms. Weiss, and she has had communications with me. So I'm just, I know I'm fully aware of what's going on, and they are just as concerned as you are, believe it or not. They were panicking for a minute. I'm like, calm down. We can't panic. We have to get this right. We have to get it right, because if we panic and we could look at it this way, we could, what happens if it comes back and even more people are not residents? They just happen to be even that everybody is 18 people and they're gone. So we could look at it this way, that, you know what, I'm glad we didn't, we waited, it worked out itself. And then we can look at it like we should be proactive. So it's just a course of peace, I think, on this one, where we could have some problems with district, what do you call it, residency, or it could work out for us. So I guess that's a horse of peace on which one we should and should do. That was a call by the district building and superintendent. Whether it's right or wrong, we'll find out. But you having a say in what's going on, I think is very super important. And that has to be told, and that has to be said. And that has to be made sure that happens.
Well, we're always gonna keep our.
Right, no,
I guess, I guess, so we're looking at, no, the information that I was given was not 20, but 10 questionable residencies in K-5.
I'm gonna interject and make a
And I just wanna
motion to
acknowledge-
call the question. I'm very sorry, because if I was a parent and if I was doing the situation, believe me, I'm 100% sympathetic, but I seem to be the form and format person lately. And the thing is that this discussion coming up in the board president's updates, it wasn't noticed, and so now we're having an extended discussion that really goes beyond
Discussion.
K-5 enrollment, I noticed.
It was, no, I noticed it as a discussion. So we're not making any decisions. This is just a discussion to have, and I purposely put it that way.
Yeah, it was there Friday. It was there when.
No, I'll withdraw. I mean, you're right. It does have public content on the discussion here. Without Ms. Weiss being here, without having some.
I'm just telling you what we have discussed, and Jenica, you were in the meeting with us
Yeah.
this week, so.
I can speak to that, Dr. Smith and Mr. Kreger are gonna be having some conversations with the K-5 team. If you wanna know what feedback is and, to help problem solve, right? Solutions for,
either way, right? 'Cause we don't know. And Katie, I appreciate your feedback, so I took note, so thank you. If I could just say one thing, I totally am in support. I think what I was going to say beyond your child motto, whatever it takes. The other overarching point that I've heard at a lot of these meetings is to make sure that we are taking care of our teachers, and I'm glad that they're willing to speak today. I completely echo everything they're just saying, and I want to make sure also that whatever is talked about at this meeting, that parents are aware, because like I said, I have met with Mr. Gregor, and I have had an email correspondence with Mrs. Weiss. So obviously, they know that this is out. It's going to be more out, because I don't think that this is something that needs to be quiet. I think it's an important thing to discuss to your neighbors and your friends, your child's friends, parents. But I would really please advocate for more communication with families, so that if there is something drastic about to happen, it's gonna be a lot easier to swallow if there's more notice, because if you're a new, I can't imagine how this would hit somebody over the head. This kind of person they're talking about.
Jennifer, can you, kind of, enlighten, Ms. Weiss on what is being said? After the meeting, please have her send at least by Tuesday morning, some kind of letter outlining at least what the options are or what they've discussed, and who, just so parents will know and teachers will know what is going on. So at least that's the first part of the conversation. Yes, ma'am.
We have emailed, Mrs. Weiss as well, and she is going to, I believe even just today, she responded back to us that she will be in contact with our team as well, because our team has been also emailing her.
Right, I have copies of those, but I just want to make sure that I tell on record, say that this is a mandate. It's gonna be recorded. It's recorded, it's gonna be up there, so she knows that this is something that should be done.
Can I pile on?
Pile on, maybe.
I love you guys too. You've taught my children, and I just want to say how much I appreciate you coming here and speaking with us directly. If you are part of our community, and I value each of your wisdom and your input. And I agree that I think there should be full-on collaboration with you and an elevation of your opinions as the people with feet on the ground as to what some of the solutions are. I think you should be at that. I know it's hard, and I'm sitting here thinking we can talk about right accounts, but you know how many kids are coming to your classrooms every day. So I hope you will be included.
One of
Bottom up in decision making.
One other thing is, don't ever think that you can't come here. I think the board said this last year. We said it, I think I spoke at your opening. You have every right to come here and tell us what your work conditions are. You have every right to write any of us and say how you feel. Now, here's the catch with that. Sometimes we can't agree with you. Sometimes we will agree with you. Sometimes we don't even know what the problem is sometimes. So if you tell us, we can fix the problem, or we can try to work on the problem. So don't ever think that you are not allowed to come here, or you will get retaliated on or anything like that. Well, we will have your back.
We were trying to follow protocol.
And you
Not
did.
like-
No, and I know for a
If
fact
I-
you did. You went to Ryan, then you went to Ida. And then Ida spoke, you kind of didn't like that answer, so you went to Allison. Allison told you what it was, but also referred you to Ida. But I also knew you were coming here too. So you did do protocol. That is what it is. So everybody on that whole step knows exactly how you feel. Ryan does, Ida knows, Allison knows, I know, now the board knows. So we are all in communication with. Right. Yeah, that's fine. And that's what you should do. So we're gonna go on to the, oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I'll make it brief. Lynn Wright, 2100 West Applewood Lane. I won't belabor, but the fact of putting things on record. as you shared, previously, if it's not on record. Tamika, I guess I want to make it really clear that last year, as a parent, of a K-5-year-old, it was communicated that they were concerned about their class sizes, at that point in time. So I respectfully, disagree with maybe, insight or communication, that was, shared with you, because that as a parent was what was communicated to me. So for me, I have a few questions, that I'd be looking to have answered. One, what processes are in place to cross-check class levels prior to the school year start? Two, what chain of communication should occur when we anticipate recommended class counts are going to be exceeded? Three, who signed off and made the decision to have open enrollment for K-5 this year? Four, just given the dynamics, I know this might be touchy, but is at Parkway, is the staff administrative culture healthy and collaborative, toxic and top down, or somewhere in between? Depending upon the answer to that, how can we measure that objectively? And depending on that answer, what are the hard decisions? So we do whatever it takes. So every child, every day gets what they need. What data needs to be presented in regards to whatever decision, if we need to make a hard decision with this? And how should we be challenging the data? Because quite frankly, what these kids have gone through over the last few years, I question any validity of data depending upon when it was captured. And then next, how will the teachers, K-5 teachers, be involved? It sounds like that has developed, but not just their input on and expressing, but involved from the ground up every step of the way, whatever the solution process, however it may be. And then really what work, and now I think we all agree that a plan needs to happen, but what work needs to start today so we're ready for next year? Because for people that live in the district, this district is growing, homes are selling, families are moving in, older people are moving out. Parkway is going to not be able to accommodate all the families within the next year to 2 years. So what conversations need to start happening at a strategic level, at a board level, to start making sure that we're not being caught, quite frankly, right now with our pants down, which is kind of what this feels like. So
I have two answers to some of your questions. Number one, our open enrollment happens in January of the previous year. We have to do it. We don't know what's going on. We have to say how many we're gonna have or have not in January, even though it's for September. So, and that's no changing, no nothing. That's just the way the system is. So that's why, even if, like, at the time, we were very low on enrollment for even K-5 when we made that decision in January. It just built up. So that is one thing that we do it in January. The second question is, yes, we are looking at it. If you come to our wonderful buildings and grounds meeting now, we were talking, I think, just recently, we were talking about before pandemic, we were talking about our enrollment is going up. We are going to either have to, I think there was talk about expanding Parkway, opening up Good Hope again, selling Good Hope and expanding Parkway. I mean, there are doing a referendum. So there is some talks on that, and we are already on that. Pandemic kind of stopped that a little bit, but even then we're just starting. I think you and I had a conversation, and also Andy, I think we talked a little bit about in a previous building and ground stuff that we have to do now because it is doing it. So I want to tell you, we are not perfect in any shape or form, but most of those things you read off is either in our minds or trying to figure out or how we're going to go about it. So it's not something like your whole list didn't go, oh, wait a minute, that's a new one. I mean, because I'm not saying that you're not independent if you are, but I'm just saying all those things are happening because we do have to have a plan. Parkway is kind of small. Do we rebuild? Do we sell Good Hope so we can afford to expand because Parkway has land? Or do we remodel you know, this is a tenant in Good Hope, so we could take Good Hope back and have all day K4, because we talked about before the pandemic to have all day K4 and all day K5, you know, there was a bunch of different plans that pandemic kind of pushed out, but these were all things we were thinking about. So we have those things that you listed, they're gonna be recorded, we're gonna try to answer those in the next 6 months.
I'll follow up with an email too.
All right, we're gonna do the next step 5, visitor participation. Visitor participation is anything on a non-agenda item. So anything that we talked about previously, now, on a non-agenda item, if something you want to see on a next agenda, and you have 90 minutes or 90 seconds. to do that. 90 seconds. Go ahead.
Zach Hirschman, 2520 West Michael. I grew up in Glendale, moved away, decided to move back because this is a thriving community. These problems that we're facing are problems that are good ones, right? We don't want to see low numbers. We want to see high numbers. And now we're all very excited to see what that high third Friday count means for our budget, for what we can do. Right, like let's maybe, I don't want to take anything away. I really appreciate, I'm a high school math teacher. Really appreciate teachers coming to board meetings and telling the board what's up. I'm really looking forward to like urgent action to help these teachers get what they need. But this is, again, I just want to reframe it as this is a very big positive for the community. I also want to express gratitude to everyone, the board, the student services committee, the green committee, here anymore. Katie for bringing, like, I have a son in K5, and I did not know about these numbers, so I'm out here getting hit over the head. But also, again, having experienced education, these are the good problems for a district, right? We're gonna get this right. I want to show recognition for the incredible balancing act the board is doing with kind of a rigid commitment to values, but also the flexibility to address imminent things that are happening. I have full faith in the board to get this right. Thank you, everyone.
Oh God, somebody got faith in them. I mean, just
to run for school.
I'm just.
No, I'm here to tell you to keep doing a great job.
I'm just saying, literally, we learn and grow. I have a little bit of experience, Andy has a lot more, and we still learn something new. This situation happened one other time, but most of the stuff that happens every day, it's something new. Like, I don't remember this ever happening. And does that not happen a lot in your 16 years now? 13 years. Some of this stuff comes up and it's like, I've been on for 7 years now and I've never had this happen. This happened before one other time in my, but sometimes this is just all new to us as well. And we're just trying to figure out what to do. Motion to adjourn. So moved. That is a motion by Carla Pennington Cross. Do we have a second? Second by Ben Wynn. Aye. Wait, discussion. Do we have a discussion on it? Going once. Aye. All in favor? Aye.